look.
Yeah.
And when I literally was like, gave him that logic, he was like, I've married the wrong person. I've married the wrong person. I am with the wrong person. I cannot believe that you would discount my feelings in this way. And I went, we're having a mental break.
All right, let's do it. We got a very special guest here. Someone who has been very good to us over the last few years. LeeAnn, the head of the Kreischer family. We all know who the brains. We all know who the brains of the operation are.
Maybe you might get in trouble with him if you call me that.
No, he's the one who he says that to me all the time. He's always like, "You got to talk to her." But you guys have been so good to us professionally and personally over the last couple of years. So it's an honor to have you on.
Well, thank you, and I think it's been mutual. I think you guys have been really good to Bert.
We've tried.
We try, but it's like I'm good to God.
Bert would probably be. Right. He'd be okay without us. Whereas,
and I'm better to Bert to God, to be fair. But
no, what we've done with Bert and basically your whole operation the last couple of years has been like very good for us professionally. I think really put us on a level where we're trying to really establish ourselves in the comedy space, and him embracing us really went a long way for credibility and all that. So it was great.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
What do you think when that good guy calls and says that he's going to fly two so-so guys out to Amsterdam?
Yeah, what was your thought on that whole thing?
I thought it was awesome.
Did you?
Yes.
See, you're incredible. You're incredible because I'm always coming from a place, I'm like, man, his wife's going to be so mad about this or that. And then I see how well you guys operate, and it really is like, I've said it many times before. I'm like, I think you guys are marriage goals, where it's like, I mean, but in so many ways, like forget about now. Now it's probably easy because everything's successful, but for a long time it wasn't, right? So like you went through the phase of being probably the supportive girlfriend and then wife of like the broke comedian, and then the supportive wife of the comedian trying to make it, and then now the supportive wife of like he's always on the road and away, and none of that is easy, and some of it comes with money and cool stuff, but as a marriage and as parents and stuff, that all has to be very hard. And I think you guys do it it seems effortlessly. I don't know if it is or not, but it seems like you guys maybe a little bit of effort. It seems like you guys, whatever comes your way, good, bad, or the other, it's like you guys do it together. It's amazing.
We are so lucky. We talk about it all the time, how lucky we are because of exactly everything you described, right? It's so funny. It's the only marriage I've known. Just the only.
I hope.
It is.
Otherwise, Bert's got some news coming.
We got problems. And it's the only way I know how to parent. And I was kind of parented the same way, and that my parents were divorced, and so I spent a lot of time away from my dad, and then summers with my dad, and then the rest of the year with my mom. And so I think it set us up to kind of frame our life together for success. Because I know what it's like to feel connected to somebody and not be with them.
Yeah.
My dad called me every Wednesday night. He was never late to pick me up every other weekend. And when we were together, when I was with my dad, it was all about me.
Yeah.
And not in like all about me in a bad way, but like I was his focus.
Yeah.
Totally.
We did things that he needed to do. He worked. I'd go to work with him, but I knew I was his I was a priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bert's exactly the same.
Yeah.
So it's really fascinating that you grow up a certain way and then you find a way to repeat it.
Yeah.
Right?
I always think about that with my dad, where you're talking about priority, where my dad was a very hard worker, worked all the time, but I don't have a single memory of playing Little League and looking up and seeing him on his phone. And he was always just there, or hockey or whatever it may be, where I was like, I think I noticed it in Little League, like even at a young age, where I was like, damn, he like, whenever we're like, I don't know if he's at home, he's always working, and like he's not working. He's never working when he's watching.
He's with you.
When he's with me.
Right.
And I always thought that was cool and something I would hope to replicate when I got older.
Yeah.
And making someone a priority when you're with them.
Yeah, to be present.
Yeah.
That was a deal we made when we were first together. Because when he started touring when Georgia was 3 days old. So
good timing.
Right?
Jesus Christ.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
And so I said to him, I'm cool with this as long as when you show up, you are plugged in.
Yeah.
So I'll support everything you do when you leave as long as when you get here, you plug in. Because the kids don't deserve a dad that's not plugged in.
Yeah.
They're not gonna, that's not how this is gonna be.
Right.
And he actually wasn't interested in anything other than that. He really wanted to be there.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, when I was working full time so that he could go on the road, we had a nanny for Thursday, Friday only when I had to go to work. And Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Bert was it. He was stay-at-home dad. He was drop off, pick up, grocery shop, laundry. He was, no one would ever think that about Bert.
Right.
But we couldn't afford a nanny 5 days a week. We couldn't do it. So we just didn't have any choice. Out of necessity, it forced this really great moment in parenting for him.
Yeah.
Where he had no choice, and I had to let go of any like boundary or any like controlling, because I was like, I can't manage you and work this job that's really intense and hard for me at the same time.
What was that job? What were you doing?
I managed 3 apartment buildings.
Oh, shit.
I had 139 units, and I had no maintenance man.
No way.
Everything I did, I had to call like a vendor for.
Figure it out. Yeah.
And I had no assistant either for most of it. So it was just me, and I could work from home occasionally. But I hated it.
That was a good hit.
I hated it. It was a gift in that we had free rent and we had health insurance and a little bit of pay.
Yeah.
So I don't
free rent is
resent it, great. But I hated it. I did not enjoy any of it.
Were you the main provider at that time?
I was.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing to have, someone like Bert so successful now and have a period of time where I think it happens more often than not, but people don't really tend to recognize it. And I remember watching an interview with John David Washington, who's Denzel's kid, and he got introduced as, this is Denzel Washington's son, and he was like, and forgive me, I forget the mother's name, and he's like, whoa, I'm also Angela Washington's son.
Right.
He's like, Denzel Washington. You know Denzel Washington because Angela Washington worked jobs while he tried to get a role.
Wow.
And while he tried to grow. And and again, I wish I could look up her name because it's really stupid of me to not know it now after that.
But that's amazing.
Yeah.
No, but for him to recognize that,
that's amazing.
It's a gender role switch. It's a responsibility switch. I can't tell
Pauletta.
Pauletta.
And I'm sorry, it's Pauletta Pearson. She never took his last name. So Pauletta Pearson.
Even more gangster,
Yeah.
I feel like that is like both of those things of being supportive of it, of his job, and then also the recognition to like let go a little bit of the control. I think are two things that can be like invaluable in this world. Like,
I agree.
Because it's like you have to support the career. If you don't support the career, it's probably honestly not going to work, right? Like if you really had a problem with him going on the road for whatever reason,
our marriage wouldn't have worked because that boy can't do nothing else for a living. Are you kidding me? Can't hold a regular job.
So that, if there was trust issues, if there was time, like you just didn't want to be a part all the time, like it just probably wouldn't have worked. So that's like the first thing. And then I feel like nowadays now that everything is kind of everybody works and does family, it's not gender roles anymore. I feel like it's very hard. Like you have to kind of let go of the control a little bit. If it's like if you want me to help around the house, raise the kids, do that stuff, like it's not always going to be your way then. You know what I mean? So to be like, I'm going to work, you take care of the kids, Bert, for these 3 days, and he does it kind of his way, and you're cool with that, and I'm sure it's, you're all on the same page somewhat, but to let it like fluctuate a little bit, I think is, because when it's like, if you want my help, I'll do it, but if you're going to complain, then you just do it yourself. Like I can't do it your way, I do it my way. So I think those two things are probably crucial to surviving. And
they are, and I think it's a real flaw if you can't recognize that not everything has to be your way.
Yeah.
Now there's like the core value set, right? There's no hitting in our family. We both agreed that there's no hitting. Isla was a hitter. So you can't let her just go willy-nilly and hit Georgia all day for 3 days straight. That's one you gotta handle, right? But he would take them to Trader Joe's and put them in the buggy and literally get a French loaf bread, like a big long baguette, break it in half, and give each kid one, and let them eat
it while you did it.
I would never have done that ever. But you know what? He got dinner ready. He got kids bathed.
As long as you get to the finish
line.
line.
The shit exactly.
Everyone's like,
we hit our bedtime. We hit the ones that matter.
Yeah.
So
they can
let
read
him
and
eat
write.
a half a baguette on those 3 days a week. I'm good, because the rest of it got handled. There was no hitting and all those like baselines that you agree on. And part of that value system agreement is just how you're built, right? The reason that we've been together so long is because those basic value systems just automatically line up maybe 90%. And that's not something that we worked at. It
you
just
think
was
you're just
how we
compatible?
were. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that when we were first dating and we were super broke, we would get a $10 pizza from Domino's, watch old movies that I already owned, or play Scrabble. And so we were like,
That's
if
great.
we can do that and not worry about anything else,
That makes you happy,
I think
right?
we're pretty good.
Yeah.
We had so much
Right.
fun. We reminisce about that.
Yeah. You almost
Like,
wish
we
you had that, right?
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
we'll do it from time to time again. But if you find somebody that you can do nothing with and still call it a good time, I think that's a good indicator.
Yeah.
And another thing, you know, my dad lived with 2 roommates, and they partied a lot. And one of the roommates had a son my age, so on every other weekend there were kids in the house, and then the other weekend it was a party house. Kid house, party house. Sometimes they would overlap. So Bert calling to ask you to go to Amsterdam completely tracks with my entire childhood. So for me,
That's cool.
when he comes up with stuff like that, I'm like, that sounds like a fucking blast. Sorry, I don't know if I can curse.
Oh, you sure can.
Yeah.
But, okay.
You can say
But I
whatever the
was
fuck
like,
you want. Yeah.
Please do that. I'm actually have a little FOMO that I can't go do that, and don't want to interrupt the whatever's happening. Like, I
we would love
get
to have you
it.
there.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of what makes us work, is I think that I have a lot of guy in me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I have a lot of guy.
So, I mean, that's awesome. I mean,
I think it is kind of awesome.
You just...
And I also
You
think
don't
Bert has a
find
lot
that.
of girl in him.
Yeah,
Bert
that's
has so much girl.
Bert is such a chick.
You have no.
He knows it. He knows it.
Oh, you don't even know the depth of the shit.
I'm sure.
Like when you read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, you just had to just reverse the whole book. And go, I need cave time.
Yeah.
I need to solve the problem. I need to do that. And then you just need to be heard. You just need to shop to manage your feelings. That's what the book said. I was like, you are the Venus, baby, all
I always
day.
remember when Erica Nardini, our former CEO, when she first got hired at Barstool, not first, when she'd been at Barstool for maybe a year, 2 years or whatever, we started talking about a book she's going to write. And I don't know if she is. Maybe she will one day. And she was going to call it All Guys Are Chicks. Because she had been managing at the time, probably the first 2 years since when Erica got here. It was probably
Almost
all
all
male company.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're all girls, dude.
Yeah.
All
That's
of it.
so funny.
know,
She should totally write that book. It's a great book. But some girls are girls too.
Yeah, I mean, but there's so much luck in that. Like,
Finding the right person?
yeah, I don't know.
I agree.
How did you guys stumble into each other in Florida that first date or that
We
whatever?
didn't stumble in
It's just
Florida. We met in LA.
L.A., whatever. It's just
Yeah.
like you might, bump into them, or you bend down to tie your shoe and then you miss each other, and that's it. That your life goes totally a different direction.
Totally.
Or you meet somebody who you think you love or you think is gonna work, and then the thing for me is like you work. We work as a relationship now, but then 5 years things change, and 10 years things change, and if how do you know if you're gonna work when I'm a millionaire comedian on the road? And the fact that like you guys are compatible to the point that you've worked at every level is like probably a testament to more about you guys like working on it or being together for each other, but also just luck that it's like it just works. Like you guys are kind of a yin and a yang, and it just flows. It's like, well, that's probably how you end up being able to do all of it, raise great kids.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I feel like the joke is kind of that Bert's always on the road, but at the same time I also feel like you guys have like the tightest family. Like, we all like see, and I'm sure there's behind closed doors, but it's like we see how like you guys work as a family, and you seem like you're loving and funny and caring, and it's all good, you know. So it's amazing that you juggle it all, because there's a lot.
We are really lucky.
I remember maybe it was the first time Bert ever came in, and he was telling a story about when he had a show on Discovery, and he'd almost died a handful of times,
Bert
broke his
Conquer
back,
or Trip Flip, both of them.
Yeah, right.
And he was basically how he got started, or not how he got started, but how his podcast got, where he was in the green room at the Comedy Store or one of the LA spots, and Rogan was in there and Bill Burr were in there, and they like basically had an intervention where they were like, you have to stop doing this. I think he said, what's your nut? What do you need to make? We will help you get to whatever it is. If his friends were recognizing that, where was your head at during that time?
I was 2 or 3 years ahead of them.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. After the first contract expired with Travel Channel, I said, don't renew that.
Wow.
Don't do that. You need to be focusing on stand-up. Don't do that.
Really?
And he did it. And I was like, motherfucker.
Really?
Because I knew it was a limited part of his authenticity, right? It was a lane, but it was a tiny lane of what he was capable of as an artist.
Yes.
And I didn't like that, because I wanted him get in it, but then get out of it before you get stuck in it. Before you get stuck in it for money, for contract, for I'm just comfortable here, or fill in the blank.
Right.
And I kept going, you need to get out. And he wasn't listening to me, and I was really frustrated, because not only was that I was thinking about him as an artist, but the trauma, big word, but it's real in my house. It was really traumatic for him to do that show.
Yeah.
And that trauma was bleeding into our house.
Oh, shit.
And I didn't like that. And he couldn't really hear me, because he kept saying, I need to provide for my family.
Well, I was going to say, as
This
a
is
guy, that
paycheck.
probably goes against
I get
everything
it.
you're feeling.
100%.
Yeah.
That's why he kept renewing and renewing. He renewed 2 or 3 more times. It was
Holy
a total of
shit.
6 years.
Wow.
And 2 years was the first contract, and I was like,
Don't do it.
bounce and start going back to your stand-up. Wow. So 4 more years he did this, and he ended up with PTSD from it.
Yeah,
and
I'm
it
sure.
was fucking awful.
Yeah.
But, this often happens in our relationship, which frustrates me, is that I will say something over and over and over again, and then Tom
Someone else
Segura will
believes it.
say it, and I go fuck yourself, man.
But I was
I've been
just about
saying
to
this
say,
forever.
I was just about to say, because I'm sure that was frustrating.
It's so frustrating.
But I think sometimes, especially in a relationship, like, it's not right, but it's almost the same way as, like, you don't listen to your parents. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Like,
get it.
It's
And
like
it
you don't think
still
your parents
feels
are
like
cool.
shit.
Yeah, no, it sucks. It definitely sucks.
It feels like shit, because I go, I'm the person
knew
that
this.
loves you the most.
Yeah.
I'm the person that has the least dog in this fight.
Yeah.
Come on, I just want you to be healthy and happy. And
I could see
Did
him,
you
though,
think you
maybe
had a-
being like, when other stand-up comedians, like, if your wife tells you, you're funny enough, you're good enough, it's like, you love me. You probably
Of course.
think that.
It's his peer
When
group.
Joe Rogan, Tom Segura, and Bill Burr say, go do it, it's like, oh, shit, okay, wait a minute. Like, that, you guys don't have to say that to me. My wife has to say that to me.
Very good point.
But it still sucks.
Very good
to
point.
be,
No, you're
you know.
right. That is a good point.
Yeah.
Did you think you had a breaking point with it?
Yeah, I did have a breaking point with it.
You-
with the
you-
PTSD?
Yeah,
Oh,
like-
yeah.
Had he signed another contract, do you think you might be in a different spot now?
We would have had problems.
Yeah. Obviously, professionally, you would be, but I meant like personally.
But, I don't know that he would have, because the PTSD had gotten to the point where he was like a crazy person.
Really?
Like, I just told this story
What do you-
yesterday on
yeah, what do you mean,
Bustin'
like
with the Boys.
PTSD?
But, so PTSD is caused by extended periods of intensity without recovery. So intensity could be domestic violence.
Yeah.
It could be war, is what most people think of for PTSD. It could also be, I'm jumping off a building or a bridge, or I'm in a human slingshot, or I'm swimming with sharks, and I'm doing all 4 of these events 4 days in a row with 1 day off, and then repeating the same level of intensity 10 days in a row with a day off, and I'm doing this for 6 years. So it caused him to think he was dying all the time. So he would call me like crying. He was vomiting a lot from anxiety.
Wow.
I'm going, you are dismantling yourself for a paycheck. Stop doing it.
Yeah.
And then we had
That's
this.
really sad.
It was really intense.
I mean, and especially once I'm sure, I feel like once comedians make it, a lot of times people are just like, oh, it's easy, or like whatever, like it's a cushy job, or it's like, or they criticize the act or whatever it is, and it's like if you knew what I fucking did for the first 30 years,
totally,
you know,
and
fuck
for
you.
This job, you know, he's not a natural. He was not at the time a natural thrill seeker. So like I was the one. If there was a rock to jump off into the ocean, I'd be like, I'm in. Let's do it. And he'd go, fuck you.
No way.
I'll be right here. I'll see you when you float up dead on the side. You know, and I'd be like, no, it's going to be fine. Look at all these people doing it. He's like, no. And then he got put in this job that's completely opposite of his natural inclination. And he just pushed through it over and over and over again. So we had this moment where we were camping with our kids, and we were in this like cabin that had a lake, and I was at the lake with the kids baiting their hook, and he was all the way up at the house, and our kids were little, maybe like 8 or so, 8 and 6 maybe. He was up at the house watching me bait the hook, and then he was like, LeeAnn, get up here right now. And I was like, what now? Because he'd been having all these like off moments, and I was like, what now? And I go upstairs, and he's like, cannot believe you would bait that hook in front of me. That is so emasculating. You have just emasculated me in front of our children. And I'm like, you're freaking like 60 yards from me. And I put a worm on a hook.
Yeah.
And when I literally was like, gave him that logic, he was like, I've married the wrong person. I've married the wrong person. I am with the wrong person. I cannot believe that you would discount my feelings in this way. And I went, we're having a mental break. Mental break. So I just zipped my mouth and just let him. It was a 2-hour I got talked to for 2 hours, and when it was over, I was like, we need some help.
Yeah.
We gotta get some help. I gotta get some help here. I don't know how I'm gonna get help. I'm just gonna get through this camping trip.
Wow.
And
but good. I mean, that's
and
we
then
gotta get Bert back from Venus.
I got him, and I went, dude, this is past my pay grade. I can't help you anymore. Like, this is not okay for our kids, and this is not okay for me. So you got to get some help.
What a mature response, though.
Yeah.
Because I would have been like, fuck you.
No.
I mean, it'd be to recognize that someone is going through something.
I
and
saw
it's like,
pain.
Yeah.
What I saw was someone suffering.
You should give yourself credit for that, though, because
he was in
there's
so
a lot
much
of people who, you know, when they're getting talked at or yelled at, even if they know it might be coming from a painful spot, don't offer you that grace or that, you know, that slack in that moment, because that's what it takes. I mean, I'm sure on some level, it's like he was doing all that to try to make money and provide. So it's like all coming from a place of trying to help the family. But when it starts to tear apart the family, it
was intense.
Yeah, that is crazy.
It was tough.
Yeah.
That was about 2 years.
People have no idea what goes into it to make it in Hollywood, show business, whatever you want to call it. It's like, and it's all good now, but you know, geez.
Yeah, it's crazy.
When did you start your podcast?
6 years ago.
So you're still, you know, you're in the game for a little while now too. It's not like you just, you know, jumped on recently. So was that something you wanted to do, or was it like once this all kind of started, it afforded you the opportunity to do it? Or
this is an interesting story. So somebody reached out to Bert on his podcast, a guy named Jair Rodriguez. He gave personality tests and value system tests, and he asked if he could give Bert and I these tests and then talk about it on the Bertcast, and we were like, sure, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
So we did these tests.
I don't know, that's a little scary to me, but
scary
you say fun, me.
No, we were like, this will be awesome. Yeah. But when he was reading us the results, he was like, you guys are actually a really good match, but there's one problem area here. LeeAnn is 90% other focused, and you are 90% self focused. So the positive is, Bert, you get everything you need. But the problem is going to be, at some point, she's going to get upset because she's not getting what she needs. Yeah. So I'm giving you this information so you have the opportunity to kind of right that boat a little bit. And I fell remarkably apart. I am not an emotional person. But in that moment, I thought, I've been in therapy for years to not be 90% other focused and I am still 90% other focused.
Yeah.
And what a failure. Like, this is not okay. Because, before I was with Bert, I was a writer. I wrote comedy and romantic comedy screenplays. I had wrote 8 screenplays, 1 got made, 4 got optioned. I had a career and a path, and then we got pregnant on the pill.
Oh,
and
shit.
I went, okay, this is my path. And I have no regrets about that path. But I had a very fulfilling career that I was enjoying and had some success in. And my career became being a mom and supporting Bert, which I was very happy to do. But that mental health piece of now I'm 90% focused, because that is the nature of being a mom.
Totally. And
that is what I had to do to get Bert from A to B so that our family was taken care of financially and et cetera.
Right.
That was a really hard piece of information for me. And so Bert is a very gracious, lovely partner in that he went, well, I'm not cool with that. I'm not cool with me being 90. Yeah. That's not cool. And I don't like how this is making you feel. And then a couple days later, he goes, I think you should start a podcast. And I went, no. People are going to say that you're just Bert Kreischer's wife. And it's going to be stupid. And what do I talk about? And he's like, I think you should just rant. And I was like, I'm absolutely not doing that. That is so, for me, for who I am as a person, that's too self-important. And that is so not who I am. Uh-huh. And so I was thinking about it one day. And I went, you know what I would like to hear as a podcast? I have the most amazing group of girlfriends that have great conversations with. And if I were looking for a podcast to listen to, that's what I would want to hear. I would want a community I could show up to and talk to my girlfriends. Mm-hmm. But then I also want to learn stuff I don't know about. I also want to, talk to people who aren't in that realm. So I want a little bit of everything. And Bert was like, and you can do that.
That's what you just described a podcast.
And I went, but who's going to listen? And he went, don't worry about it. Yeah. Just do
also,
it because
to be honest,
you love it.
Who cares though?
Exactly.
I realize I have not looked at our download numbers in 10 years, I looked at the very beginning and then I kind of said all right, it's starting to grow. That's all I need to know.
That's what I did, sort of.
I have no idea. We could listen to 5 people, 500,000 people. Doing it is what feels good.
Yeah.
Every conversation, not every, that's a lie, but 90% of the conversations we've had on the podcast, be it between us, be it with a guest, I'm like, I don't care if anyone listened to that.
Yeah, I would have had the same conversation with you without the mics.
That was
same here.
Fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. It's the same here with anybody I have on. My goal is to learn something.
Yeah.
Either learn something about them, learn something about me, learn something about life, about something in our culture, something in our current events. To learn, if I'm learning something, then it's worth my time, and then hopefully it's worth whoever listens' time. But Bert was like, you have to do it because you are right. You have so many great friends, and I have so many life experiences that are odd.
Oh my God, totally.
And unusual.
You are. If I was looking for advice for anything, if you're talking about professional, personal, romantic, parenting, You've done it all very successfully.
It's a huge compliment. Thank you very much.
Really, don't think about it. Everything for the family seems to work out professionally, financially. It seems like the kids are, smart and going to college. It seems like your marriage is great. Unless you guys are just the best goddamn actors in the world,
no.
I think you're one to learn from, not one to learn.
Thank you. Well, all I want to do is learn. Yeah. If you learn out loud, then other people get to learn too. Yeah. So
that is I think the reason to do it, really. Yeah. I remember I was a guest on a podcast, and I will refrain from naming it, but beforehand they were talking out loud. They were like, "Oh, dude, last week's numbers stink," or whatever, and I was like, I was so disappointed to be there in that moment because I was like, "Oh, that's why you guys do this."
Yeah,
that's kind of
We've never done that.
It takes kind of some shine off it for me. I thought we were just gonna talk and have fun.
Right.
And,
it's you're using me apparently. Huh?
Right. Yeah. Appreciate it. Now I feel gross. This is transactional entirely.
Yeah. It feels like a prostitute. Where it's like, I thought we were in love.
Yeah. Right? I thought we were best friends. I thought Saturday was for the boys. Oh, no.
I do. Every show we do, we leave. I'm like, I could be friends with that guy. He was awesome.
Yeah. And you know what is funny though? I don't want to say everyone because there are there are definitely ones where a guest will leave and we'll be like, that was great, and like I feel like we could be best friends. And there are ones that I was like, that guy's publicist told him to come here.
Yeah.
You can tell the fucking difference.
I have those too, and I go, oh, that one wasn't as good.
Right.
And it wasn't as good because it's just not as natural. It's just not.
And that's fine.
It's not.
It's
right?
like not a knock on anybody, but you can
No,
tell.
of course not. Not everybody meant to talk to everybody effortlessly. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So what was the moment for you that you realized things were taking off? Was there like a
for Bert?
Yeah, everything. Just like when were you like, oh shit, this is.
I know the moment.
Yeah.
I know the moment for Bert. For us, really, I think something that may not be quite as known is how involved I've been in Bert's career.
Yeah.
Even though I don't write or joke, nothing like that. But we've collaborated on all his decisions forever because we're a team.
Right.
Not because I'm bossy or like that, but because we're a team. And our team means more than anything else going on in his career or my career or anything. So we had a meeting with his agents at our house, at our dining room table. They asked to come to our house, and that's odd. We were like, that's not odd. We're usually at a restaurant or at their office. And they gave us an offer for his, what has turned into this arena tour, but it was several years ago, for his first big step out of clubs and into theaters. And I was like, this is going somewhere. This is huge. Yeah. Because selling out clubs and weekends is amazing. And for us, it was life-changing financially in that I could quit my day job. We could afford to buy a house. So when he moved into like selling out weekends in clubs, we were like, we've made it. Yeah. So we weren't really looking for any more than that. We were like, we could do this forever. Now we live in this little bitty house that we can afford with this forever. We're good. But when that offer came in, Bert and I looked at each other and went, oh, shit.
That's great.
We fixing to take off now. Wow.
Yeah.
And since then, it has done exactly that.
It feels like, exponential. Yeah. I mean, when I asked that question, you said for Bert, or for me, like I think of you guys as it's just like one unit. Even maybe that's because I know a little bit more about it, but like he talks about how much you would like watch the first draft of a special and change this joke, which I give Bert a lot of credit. I feel like if I was in a relationship and the girl was like, this is not funny, that's not funny, change this, change that, I'd be like, shut up, fuck you, what are you talking about? To be able to take that criticism, but like knowing how much you're kind of running the behind the scenes of things, I feel like it's all, you're almost as important as the whole opera. Yeah. So, I mean, that's got to be a good feeling to be like, oh, we're going to get rich now.
It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. And this sounds like ridiculous, but there was a dollar amount attached to that. But it really was also about the number of people coming to see him.
Yeah.
That's what I was...
like that kind of weight.
Yeah.
You're going, okay, hold on. You're going like, I grew up loving stand-up specials, never dated a stand-up comedian, had no interest in being in that world, but coincidentally, my dad loved stand-up. So I watched like Gallagher specials and James Carlin specials, and you see all this kind of like packed house, and Eddie Murphy, all of his specials and these huge venues he was playing, and to know that that's where he was going was insane for both of us. So the money, yes, obviously you're like, what? That's a lot of money.
Because I feel like once the ball gets rolling, it's going to go. It's like you're probably, if you make the jump from clubs to theaters, and you keep doing this, you're probably going to go to arenas next.
Yes, one would hope.
Yeah.
That's the goal, right?
Right.
But that was pretty like, whoa.
Was that it was obviously a financial relief. Was it almost a relief for you emotionally, where you're like, finally, everyone else sees what I've seen?
No.
I
didn't really think like that. I don't know why. I still don't feel like everybody... What's really interesting about Bert's fame is that he is really in the middle of the country. Really known.
Yeah.
So like in Hollywood, he's known, obviously, in the comedy community, but I'm always still surprised at how many people... He's not a household name.
Yeah.
Right? He's not that. Yeah. Like, even people who are less successful on the road to him are better known.
Are you comfortable there? Would you like
No,
No,
I'm
I
comfortable
think
there.
that's better.
No, I'm
Yeah,
good. I'm good.
yeah,
I'm
that's
good.
the best.
I'm totally good.
Fame, if you can get money without the fame, that to me
Well,
is the
yeah.
dream. But you know, those go hand in hand. But if you can find a sweet spot, that's great. Yeah.
And his fans are so. We just did a cruise, you know, with for his fans in October, and I have to tell you, you will not find a nicer group of people than the people that go to see his show. You know, my dad came on the cruise, and my dad was watching all the shenanigans going on. He was like, you know, we drank the boat out of booze.
I bet.
We did.
I was thinking about that. Like, how much do you have to stock a boat to?
We ran out day one.
Yeah.
We had to restock the boat in the Bahamas. We ran totally out. And so my dad, at the end of it, he was like, you know, the most impressive thing was everybody was drunk and there was not one fight.
Yeah, it was nice.
And I went, that's Bert's fans.
I remember being
That's
at Fully
his
Loaded where it
Yes,
was
same thing.
a very welcoming environment, almost like Grateful Dead-esque or
Yeah.
who is it? The Juggalos.
Ah.
Yeah.
We gotta get you guys moving somewhere.
Get going.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good note to end on anyway, because I really feel like whether it was by design or by luck, I think what you guys have cultivated together in all fronts is pretty amazing.
Oh, thanks.
And knowing that it was not an easy road, I you know, maybe it wasn't a relief like he just described, but I would hope it would be a relief that, like, falling off of a waterfall and breaking his back and him being away from me and the kids for all these months and time, you know, is it was worth it, at least, you know.
It was. Well, I'll tell you one thing we did that anybody can do, and I think this is important. We do this thing every year called the Summit.
Okay.
So the Summit is a business meeting between me and Bert.
Oh, I love this.
Where we like lay our ego down, we lay our weapons at the door, and we come with curiosity about what you want this next year to be.
Cool.
And then I know what you want, and then he knows what I want, and then as you function through the year, you have that in mind. And we talk about kids, dogs, money, vacations, health, parents. We talk about everything. And then it's not in a confrontational moment. It's not in the middle of an argument. It's not like, I need this, but I don't want to say anything.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the safe place where you just go, tell me everything. And then I'm going to tell you everything. And then we can function appropriately. And if you don't do it in a time where you're like stressed out, like if you don't do it when you're calm, it's communicated so differently. And because it's all encompassing, we get it all out.
The Summit.
And we have a summit. I named it the Summit because you know my Mr. Girl has to have some drama. So I was like, we got to name it something good. It's the Summit. He's like, the Summit. I like that. I'm in.
Mr. Girl. That's great.
Mr. Girl, right?
That is a great piece of advice. Yeah, this is awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so glad I got to meet you finally. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, like, and leave a comment below. Click that button.
Or I'll cut off my finger.